You'll leave your job one day, but when thousands of people are escaping an agency, it could be a sign of a problem. Over 100,000 people leave the federal government every year, but some agencies are losing more people than others. Which agencies struggle to keep their employees? If you're looking for a new job, this information will be important to you. Today, we're looking at the top 5 federal agencies with the most turnover over the last 4 years. And then we're going to look at the top 3 agencies with the best retention. Number 5 is the Department of the Interior, DOI. They've lost over 63,000 employees over the last 4 years. This is a large federal agency, and they usually rank right in the middle when it comes to best places to work. The biggest story with this agency is they have lost the most people when it comes to terminations. That means they have fired the most. This is pretty unusual. Check this out. Over half of the people who left were terminated. That's over 33,000 employees. I imagine this must have been people in internships or maybe people on probation. Either way, it's a very high number. In fact, only 15% of people in this agency actually retired. The Department of Interior is still hiring in force right now with over 700 open jobs on usajobs.gov. The 2 biggest jobs here are wildlife fire management and the park rangers. Number 4 is the Department of Agriculture. They've lost over 79,000 employees over the last 4 years. This is another large federal agency, and they typically rank a little bit lower than DOI. Last year in particular, they ranked low for pay and their senior leadership. They just didn't like them. We have 38,000 employees being terminated here, which is a lower percentage than DOI, but it's still pretty high. Between the USDA and the DOI, both of these agencies are responsible for firing the most federal employees out of any other agency. And then we have close to 6,000 people that decided to transfer out of USDA. Now, I know a few people that work for USDA. 2 of them hate it, 1 of them love it. So the one that loves it, they describe it as a family environment. We're close-knit like family. The ones who hate it, they happen to be working in high-tempo offices. So really, when you're working in a federal agency, you're thinking, am I working in the Office of Information Technology? Am I working in the Office of the Chief Financial Officer? Because the culture and the tempo is going to be completely different depending on the office and depending on your supervisor. The USDA is still hiring, but not as much as DOI. They currently have 450 open jobs on usajobs.gov right now. Most of these are in the sciences, so we're talking 0400 job series. Forestry technician, that's their highest in-demand job. Number 3 is the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. They have lost over 82,000 employees. This is the 4th largest federal agency in the entire government. It makes up something like 10% of all federal government jobs. They're in the Department of Homeland Security. And for that reason, you can imagine there's tons of sub-agencies. And a lot of these sub-agencies, they underperform, and it drags the ranking of DHS all the way down. On the plus side, it's pretty rare to get terminated here, only 14%. It looks like the vast majority of people quit. 34,000 people quit, 23,000 retired. We also had 12,000 people transfer from this agency to another agency, and I think more people should be transferring. Because if you're in a position that doesn't offer promotion opportunities, you have to apply. You have to transfer to another office or another agency completely in order to get your next higher grade. So if you're a GS11 right now and there is no promotion, you're going to have to apply in order to get your GS12 or you're just going to be stuck there. DHS has close to 900 open jobs on usajobs.gov right now. Compliance and inspection is the number 1 job. This is the 1800 series. There's over 300 jobs just in this one series. You have to remember there's a lot of CBP officers, TSA, looking at transportation security officers, Border Patrol. All these exist under DHS. They're always doing virtual hiring events. So if you're not getting this list, it means you're not signed up to the newsletter. So sign up to the newsletter down below, and I'll push out a list every Thursday giving you access to all of these hiring events. Number 2 is the Department of Defense. This is the largest agency in the federal government. And the way DoD is set up, you also have Department of Army, Department of Navy, Department of Air Force. So I kind of just lump them all into one category. And the worst right now when it comes to turnover is the Department of Army. They have lost over 131,000 employees. Over 400,000 quit. 289,000 retire, and 23% of them were terminated. They also lost about 300 people due to rifts, or a reduction of forces. The rift was probably because a military base either closed or they were downsizing, so they didn't need that many workers at that base. If you look at DoD, think of the hundreds of military bases, in this case, the Army bases that exist in this country and also overseas. There's so many job opportunities out there. And we can see that there's over 3,000 open jobs right now on USA Jobs. The main jobs they're hiring for is in administration and in engineering. So we're talking 0300 and 0800. Number one is the Veteran Affairs. The Department of Veteran Affairs has lost over 186,000 people. This is another common and popular federal agency to work in. This one tends to rank a little bit higher than all the other ones that we talked about. The main reason that people left was due to quitting, retirement, and then termination. Look at the death category. Over 3,000 people died on the job. That's pretty rough, and I'm sure some of them was due to accidents, but in other cases is because of old age. And everyone right now that's a current federal employee, they have to be asking yourself, at what point are you going to retire? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you just never retire and you're just stuck reporting to that same boss day in and day out. Go retire. If you're eligible for retirement, retire. Don't stop moving. Don't become inactive. Do something in order, to maintain your mental health. Do something that you want to do. Don't just keep reporting to the same government building until you're in your 80s and 90s, and then one day you just don't show up and people are wondering about you. Man, that's happened so much in the VA. And it happens in the DoD too. DoD had over 1,000 people over the last 4 years that just died on the job. So back to the VA, they're usually hiring, and we can see there's over 3,400 open jobs right now on usajobs.gov. The most popular job here is going to be in the medical field, so we're talking about the 0600 job series, and most of these positions are in the VHA, the Veteran Health Administration. They're responsible for providing health care to over 9 million veterans throughout the country. You can see on this chart the main people quitting or leaving, they're under 30 years old. We have about 100,000 people leaving between 1 and 2 years on the job. It's also based on pay. The more money you make, the less likely you are to leave. Imagine that. Once you cross over the 150,000 a year mark, only 2% of those people are actually leaving. Now for the top agencies with the best retention. So what you're going to find here are very, very tiny little federal agencies. Agencies like the SSS. That have like 150 people or less. But what I really want to draw more attention to, look at Department of Education. Right now, they've kept 99% of their workforce. The same goes for the National Science Foundation and the OMB. All this data, it's on FedScope. And if you like looking at charts and numbers, you can easily lose hours, if not days, digging through all this data. I'll leave a link in the description down below. If you're interested in getting a federal government job, probably have a lot of questions on your mind about the hiring process, about different type of interviews, maybe the salary questions. I did a live stream recently. I answered over a dozen of these questions. A lot of these could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.